Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session. This session will feature a panel presentation, so we will spotlight our panel presenters once we get to that point. Put into the chat box, but please post your name and your organization and the city you're joining us from. And I will be keeping an eye on the chat box, so if you have questions or need any type of assistance, please make sure to comment in the chat box. I would like to introduce and turn us over to Brian Crouse. Brian is a member of our STEM committee and our Missouri After School Leadership team for many, many years, and has been a wonderful partner in our STEM work and our career awareness and post-secondary access work and in our entrepreneurship work. So we're so thankful that you are with us again today and have pulled together this panel. So thank you, Brian.
You bet, Terry, and thanks so much for hosting us. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get going. So when Mark asked me to come in and do kind of a state of Missouri workforce, we had a couple things in mind, and one of which is we wanted to bring in some collaborators. So after I'm done, we're going to have Diane Wilhold will come in, and then we have two key STEM programs that are operating out there in Missouri that are going to share some of the activities and how to engage students. And so you hear from Kibret and Tammy on their programs and how they're engaging students across the region and the state, and then open it up for some Q&A so we can get a little bit more insights from you and what we need to do and provide better as a Missouri After School Network, and as well as in our represented area. So I have my screen shared. What I wanted to start off the day is just kind of a framework where the state of Missouri is and trending occupations that we see. So hopefully that helps you in your day-to-day work as an after-school provider or even a partner in the after-school space. So for us at the Missouri Chamber, we start with Missouri 2030. It really led us to where we are today as an organization, and it's really shaped what we do day in and day out, our mission and our vision. And one of the key things that we found when we surveyed about 1,000 CEOs in the state of Missouri back in 2015 was that the number one concern that keeps them up at night, and this is back in 2015, it was workforce. 97% said workforce was their number one top priority. So, and that's across three different spectrums when you think about it from an employer. It's preparing the workforce that you have coming in, it's attracting new workforce, and it's retaining the workforce that you have. And so all those different facets break down into what we consider as talent development, right? Workforce development, synonymous. And when you think about talent development, workforce development, you have to think really along a P20 or from cradle to career or cradle to grave, depending on how you look at that, because it can cover everything. But the whole idea is that every facet of a human being's development is talent development. So just to give a little framework as a chamber, as an economic development agency, the National Governors Association kind of frames 6 drivers. We're only going to touch on education skills and a little bit on industry clusters today. We won't touch on entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, private capital, global markets. We'll leave that for another time, another discussion. But I will say this. Mark has done a phenomenal job with the entrepreneurship grant that's out there. And so there are some great examples of entrepreneurship being performed in the after-school space. I'd encourage you to ask Mark and Terry a little bit more about that, how you might take part in that in your representative areas. So we've just finished one of the wildest rides in economic history with the COVID, right? The COVID pandemic shaped what we did, how we thought, how we act, how we still act to this day. Not just on the way we think about illness and sickness, but also about how we get goods and services. Try getting a car today, it's a little bit more challenging, but try getting an employee can be just as much challenging. And so our unemployment rate right now is at the all-time low for the most part. We did see a little bit lower at 2.4% back in September of 2022, but right now we're sitting at 2.8%. And then that's caused a lot of things with wages, competition. And now we have this forecast of the recession that's been talked about for quite some time. But we're starting to see some of that talk lessen because, you know, consumer spending is going up a little bit more. So it's just a shifting world that we're living in. But it's also shifting for a variety of other reasons. And so if you think about the industry sectors of Missouri and their strengths, it breaks along these lines. And so if you went to Missouri Department of Economic Development's website, if you went to Missouri Partnerships website, you'd have about basically the same framework for what is a Missouri industry strength. We're going to focus on 4 of those here today: advanced manufacturing, IT technology, construction, and medical. Now with construction, Diane's going to really deep dive into that. I'm going to take advanced manufacturing, IT, and medical. And then when we bring in our partners, they're going to go into the IT technology space on the programs that they have. So kind of just give you a state of the state on manufacturing. And I won't do this for each one, but just I think it's a value add to understand that Missouri is not only an ag state, but we are a manufacturing state. It contributes greatly to our overall economic abilities and where workforce is trending. So right now we have over 270,000 employees in the manufacturing space with an average wage of $74,000. So tremendous opportunity for young people to look into manufacturing. We'll talk a little bit more about why it's changed and why the perceptions have changed when we get into this a little bit. But one of the things I just like to point out is that we have some great manufacturers in the state of Missouri, from Boeing to Procter & Gamble, 3M, Honeywell, I mean, Toyota, Ford, the list goes on and on. But we have a lot of manufacturers that are in the small to mid-size employer range, from Orscheln Industries to Spartan Light Manufacturing. There's all kinds of these small to medium-sized employers that actually employ the bulk of what you see of the 270,000 employees in the state of Missouri. So where to start in manufacturing? And most people will start on the frontline production. And that's where all you'll see is the hiring. If you're in the central Missouri area, you've probably seen Hitachi ads running for $22 to $24 an hour. If you're over in Kansas City, you may have seen Honeywell ads for entry-level production, almost at $34 an hour. St. Louis, you've seen that for Boeing and others. It's amazing what the entry-level salary is for a production worker. But there's also quality assurance and then distribution. When we think about distribution, it's your warehouse workers. It's the ones that are working on the docks and doing that type of work. Almost all these positions, in all honesty, require at least a high school diploma. Now, some manufacturers will make exceptions, GED, no high school diploma, depending on what that job is and how it looks. But almost all of them provide some short-term training, either on-site or they'll send you to a community college or some sort of third-party training provider. For a young person, you know, what they're looking for really is basic math, measurement, which is a problem nowadays. Folks can't read the ruler like they used to. Computer usage, which our kids have on spades compared to what I had. And then forklift certification, which just would be one of those certifications that they would get on the job or they'd send them off. The really getting to where Tori started us, what makes for a great entry-level production is the soft skills, the durable skills, right? It's critical thinking, working well with a team, communication, all those different pieces. And that's what the Missouri After School Network and providers around the state can really leverage. So Merrick kind of puts these at, you know, now, next, and later as far as their rankings and everything. And we classify them for the most part the same way, but we call them entry skilled or professional skill, depending on how you look at it, and advanced skill or advanced professional skill. And so for somebody that's either in high school getting ready to go into college, or somebody that's actually working in production right now for manufacturers, their next step up is possibly going into an industrial mechanics position, CNC machinist, or a CNC automation programmer, or welding, something along that capacity where it just requires up to a 2-year degree with some technical training in an industry recognized credential. A great program in the central Missouri area, and I can't tout it highly enough, is the one that's in Columbia by Moberly Area Community College. It's the mechatronics program. And this is a really cool program where the students actually do about 80% of their classroom learning in kind of a plant type setting in their classrooms. So they have all the PLCs, the different types of electrical equipment, CNC machines, robotic systems, all that they can do that on. So it's a great kind of avenue for young people to pursue, or somebody that's maybe worked 20 years in retail, time to make the transition to something different. You have to bear with me. I'm coming off a cold here. So the final kind of step up for manufacturing is really in the engineers, plant managers, product development. So here is the owner of Titan Nova. So he started working for Boeing as an engineer for years, realized that there was one of the ways that they actually did something could be modified for another application. And so right here, he's showing how a laser actually resurfaces a part for a vehicle. Takes it down to tolerance, makes it a little bit build, brings it back up. But the whole thing I point out about this is, one, we see a lot of individuals that are working as plant managers or engineers in factories that go off on their own with an entrepreneurial mindset, start their own business. The average salary for most of these engineers, plant managers, product development is around $109,000, depending where you're located in the state of Missouri. In some areas, it's going to be more. In other areas, it might be less. It just really depends. I've seen engineering positions go as low as maybe $50,000 right out of college. I've seen them go as high as 80, 86, 90,000 right out of college. So it just really depends on, one, the actual plant or the operation, and two, also where it's located. Typically, 4-year college technical background, BS in engineering, BS in business. Certifications are across the board on what they would do in those particular areas. But one of the primaries that you'll see on either engineers, plant managers, product development is Lean Six Sigma, which is kind of an efficiency management system, how you look at the way you produce a product or a good. And then project management professional, how you track and manage products. So I want to kind of, we know, and how I just put out in your chat box, do you still have the perception that manufacturing is dark, dirty, and dangerous? Yes or no? Not anymore. No. Good. Perception's changing. All right. So there's a terminology being put out there, and it's been out there for years, called Industry 4.0. And basically what that is the new wave of where manufacturing is. High tech, high speed, not dark, dirty, and dangerous. And there's different components. So I'd encourage you, if you want to find out more about Industry 4.0, but I think there's an Industry 5.0 that's emerging in manufacturing. And that is kind of what Nike demonstrates, which is getting into culture and inclusivity. And I think that is where we're seeing a lot of manufacturers now driving to, trying to bring a wide, diverse background to their operation and trying to build a better culture. So Nike is actually, this factory is over in St. Peter's, O'Fallon, Missouri, and they produce all the air sacs for the Nike shoes. So let's take a look and see how they do it.
Nike has been the total package for me.
It's a very cool place to work.
Once you get on the floor, game on.
The people that work here are absolutely fantastic. Everybody supports one another.
Here, we're making mass production of air to go into the shoe.
A lot of people don't realize there's air inside of Kyrie's, LeBron's, Air Force Ones. Air is in shoes that you can't see.
Oh, it's amazing. When you watch an NBA game and you watch LeBron do something, you're like, ha ha, those are from us, right?
That air bubble that you don't see, I helped make that. It just brings chills up my arm just to kind of walk down the line and you see that we're making air units that you know at some point there's going to be on a little kid's shoe or somebody's most prized possession. It feels good.
And we engage everybody we can to make sure that we can drive innovation through our people and our processes.
Even if something is going well, we're always looking at how can we make it better.
Improving not only what we're doing from a safety perspective, but also what we're doing from an environmental sustainability perspective.
I think the culture of inclusion is the basis for what we have success on top of.
You're able to pull different people from wherever they are, whoever they are, and you're able to get different thought processes and different ideals from everyone.
Everyone brings something different. Everybody steps up and has a voice.
You feel supported on a daily basis, and you have individuals who actually truly care about you and care about not only you, but the work you do.
I'm allowed to fail. I'm allowed to ask questions. I'm allowed to say, hey, I just don't understand. But what I can do if I don't understand, someone will be right there and help me.
People are willing to help you out, guide you from the process from day one.
Nike supports every growth aspiration that an employee could have.
We've got the whole Nike U, right? That gives you the opportunity to learn communication styles, to learn leadership styles, time management. We have that for you.
If you spend some time doing a volunteer activity, Nike contributes to that activity as well.
Recently, they introduced a Lane 4 program with the University of Memphis.
I can go in, I can sign up for classes, and I don't have to pay anything out of pocket, and Nike reimburses the school for my time there.
My favorite part is community investments. Actually going out into the community, putting backpacks on kids, feeding the homeless, improving the quality of life.
It's a beautiful thing when you can go to your manager and say, hey, I want to work on this. And they're open and honest with you and say, okay, I'll set that up and get right on it.
They've got a basketball court, we've got a place to work out, lift weights, run on the treadmills, like hop on the rower in between meetings.
There's so much to do. There are so many people to meet.
I'm happy. I want to come to work. I think we're doing a really great job by just keeping people first.
They value you. They're here for you. You will never get another experience within a manufacturing building. This is the place to be.
Oh, there we go. Move forward. So before we go into the technology, what things came to mind when you were watching the video? Go ahead and throw them in the chat.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I always picked out was the willingness to allow us to fail, to make mistakes. And I think that's one of the key things that, we've all heard about, is that youth aren't given that opportunity to fail and recognize their mistakes and how to grow from those mistakes. So felt like a tech company, you got it. And I would say almost every one of the spotlighted individuals that you saw, they've come from different industries and they don't feel like they're going anywhere else than Nike. And I know not every manufacturer has that culture and mindset, but we're seeing it emerge in our smaller manufacturers, that they are developing a culture. If they didn't already have a good family type culture to begin with before, which a lot of them do, they're starting to look at some of these major international and national companies, and they're starting to take pages from their playbook, and they're seeing the transformative effects within even a small organization. So 50, 25 people. So next we're going to go into the IT technology space, which this is one of the most trending areas for us as a state of Missouri. And really, if you talk to any employer, they're going to tell you technology or IT is a function or a backbone to how they operate. Even as Diana will get into in construction a little bit later, it's shaping their industry left and right. So Our Missouri Technology Alliance did a report a year and a half ago called Missouri 2030 Technology. And when we looked at other states, these were some of the key rankings for performance for us across 50 states. Tech manufacturing growth, we're 7 in the nation. Expanded tech future manufacturing growth, 8, which is where we're driving right now. The Missouri Chamber has really been pushing on the semiconductor, trying to get semiconductor facilities brought into Missouri, because we know that would put us at a very critical logistic point in the supply chain, but also for future years to come as a growth state. But the one thing we are most proud about, or seem to really rally upon, is the fact that we are 10th in the country for women in the tech sector. I wouldn't have thought that. Going into the report, our team didn't think that. I know our CEO, Dan, he didn't think that. It was just one of these eye-opening unintended consequences of looking at the data, right? So we've kind of rallied around that, and we're trying to influence other organizations to see that there's a lot of value with proving up women in technology. One of the great organizations to come up recently is Tech STL, based in St. Louis. Emily Breedwell is the executive director. And I bring this out because I really think her STL Tech Jobs report really captures the region and what they're seeing on the tech side. But they really kind of have like this little chart roadmap that identifies the pathway. And the one thing that you'll notice, if you look over to the K-12 STEM education side, on the upper right corner is after school. They believe that after school, just as we do, plays a critical role in getting individuals to understand, especially students, to understand where the IT technology jobs are, how they can utilize and learn about technology in the classroom, in the after school space, and then how they can use that to formulate a career pathway. So we'll go into a few of the occupation roles that we're seeing. And going back to the manufacturing, and what you'll see is the average salary, that's Merrick data. So that's the average salary that Merrick has. In St. Louis, these salaries, in Kansas City, these salaries are a lot higher. So the salary in St. Louis could be approaching close to about 45, 50,000, depending on the company, with little skill development on the front end. So high school diploma with short-term training certificates. A lot of these industry recognized credentials, and Tori actually mentioned the CompTIA piece earlier. Those are credentials that you and I, if we want to go online, we can start taking those courses now, and actually in a short term get CompTIA A+, ITF+ certified with very little understanding of computers. They kind of give you a base foundational, right? Another couple skills that individuals have to have, or at least have the ability to learn very quickly: Excel, Access, and the Microsoft Office suite, right? That's still critical. You use it, I use it. It's critical for the IT field. And that's one of the skills that they always list in almost every report. As you start to move into the career, computer programming and web development is the next step up. And this is usually a 2-year technical degree. It's really getting into actual coding, learning Java, C certified A+, SQL, Python, Oracle, or getting a credential in cybersecurity, depending on what that would be. So average salary is about 53,000 for the state. I will say the computer programming in some of the regions like Kansas City and St. Louis, it could be upwards in the 60, 70,000 range. And there's a disclaimer on computer programming. It used to be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that all you saw in the job postings on computer programming was a 4-year degree, and not the case anymore. We're seeing 2-year degrees, and even bootstrap type programs that have maybe a 16-week to a 24-week type time frame are getting individuals into entry-level computer programming jobs at very good wages. When you start thinking about the advanced side to this, it's software developers, computer security analysts, computer programmers, and that's why the disclaimer is there. Depending on the company, depending on what that role the computer programmer is, they could either require a 2-year degree or 4-year degree. And that kind of gets at another thing that Tori mentioned, is that employers are really starting to shift their mindset from looking at a 4-year credential for a lot of jobs and looking at just what the skill sets, badging, certificates that an individual has, that work experience. So moving into healthcare, which is another critical area for the state of Missouri. So we just finished COVID. We're hearing it in the news every day that the hospital workers are leaving in spades. Nurses are leaving the industry, going in different industries. It's hard to attract. But what we're also seeing with students coming out of high school is we're seeing a stronger buildup of students wanting to go into healthcare professions. So it's a great opportunity to showcase some of these professions to after school space. Your baselines are home healthcare aid, psychiatric aids, sterile processing aid would be a little bit more advanced, a little bit more technical in some ways, but entry level. Basic certifications, first aid, CPR, average salary range is anywhere from 25 to 29, depending on the position. I'm seeing sterile processing almost push up to 42,000 on some of the postings, depending on where it is and what the hospital is. When you move into the second one, your skilled professionals, now we're looking at the nursing assistants, your LPNs, your radiology techs. I could probably turn this over to Diana right now, and she could tell me just about everything about that because she used to work for BJC years ago. But this is really kind of that sweet spot for many, because it gets them in the door with little training or education. Gets them in the door, and it puts them in a very good paying, good trajectory of a position. So right behind this lady is all the imaging software that you'd see in a radiology lab. Those labs, if you haven't been in a radiology, you do an MRI, PET scan, they are phenomenal on what they can actually see inside the body. It's amazing what they can do and what they can diagnose with that. Some of their certifications are here. And then moving on to the next level, which is the healthcare advanced professional. And this is where your registered nurses come into play, physical therapists, respiratory therapists. Of course, we have the high end, which is your doctors, your surgeons. But this is where we feel like the brunt of, individuals that want to go into the healthcare field are going to wind up in the healthcare field. They're going to be registered nurses, physical therapists, respiratory therapists is such a critical need. In fact, right now across the US, there's a 14% increase or demand in RTs. So it has a tremendous opportunity. You can even get an RT with a 2-year AAS, if I'm not mistaken. Diane, you correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I believe you can get it with that and then have some experience. But we're starting to see, or they're saying that it's more in the 4-year degree field. So on the healthcare side, there's tremendous opportunities there for your students. I'd encourage you to go to the Missouri Hospital Association. They have a Missouri Healthcare Career Portal that actually you can take your students through, and they can select, do they like working with individuals? Do they like blood? Do they not like blood? Where do they fall in the spectrum? And it'll point them in the directions of different careers that we kind of talked about, and a lot others that I didn't mention today. And so that's a great tool, and I encourage you to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for our construction side to Diane Wilhold.
Hi there. Thank you, Brian. Can you all hear me okay? All good. Okay. Thank you so much, Brian. And as Brian mentioned, I am a transplant, if you will, from the healthcare industry side to the construction side. I was very blessed and fortunate to work for BJC for 29 years. I ran a department that provided health education, prevention programming, and did talent pipeline workforce development for the healthcare industry. I recently, as of 3 years, of February 2020, joined Construction Forum, serving as the Deputy Executive Director and COO of this wonderful organization. And as I have been saying to folks, quite frankly, take healthcare out, put construction in. At the end of the day, it's really about awareness, exposure, education, and opportunities for individuals to be connected and to learn about different professions that are within the construction industry. So we are currently in our 10th year, celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And our executive director, Tom Finan, actually is the co-founder, along with a lawyer, to develop Construction Forum. Our whole purpose and our mission is to facilitate the collaboration of all the stakeholders in our region. So when you think about an organization that is serving as a backbone and a convener, a communicator, and a collaborator, Construction Forum serves that purpose here in the St. Louis metropolitan region. So with that, I'm going to have Brian go to the next slide. So I know that there are always two different sides. When we think about construction, we think about the skilled craft professions, and then we think about those professions that require 2-year or 4-year plus degree programs. I'm going to focus mostly on the skilled craft professions. And the skilled craft professions that I'm going to focus on are actually going to be the ones that are affiliated when we talk about organizations or companies that are signatory companies or companies that hire union employees. One of the things that we do say at Construction Forum, we're not for, we're not against the union, non-union. However, in the St. Louis region, union tends to be our primary focus. And so we are going to focus on the registered Department of Labor apprenticeship programs. There are currently 22 different skilled craft professions that a person can go into. And the unique things about all 22 of these different professions is that each of them have specialty areas that you can specialize in and that you can be hired onto, whether you're in our trade within the letter of intent pathway and the union hiring hall pathway. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. One of the things that actually is exciting, and Brian mentioned this earlier, is the manufacturing aspect that is going to be a huge component in the construction industry. We recently in the St. Louis region, we are going to be building out a dual $1.2 billion project. It's going to be called the Gateway South Innovation District down south of the Gateway Arch. And it's a combination of advanced manufacturing and construction. And this project is going to marry both of the manufacturing side, so modularization and basically creating opportunities to where both of the industries are joining forces together and going to be extremely entrepreneurial in the development and the way in which we build. So all of these skilled craft professions that you see here on the screen will play an active role and an active part when we talk about building out any of the different projects that we have throughout the state of Missouri. We currently nationally have, unfortunately, over 400,000 needed skilled trade professions. And I often get asked, how and why is it so difficult to get into these skilled craft professions? How do I get my child, or how do I encourage our students to be enrolled in these programs? I always hear, well, if I go into the skilled trade professions, I'm told that I will make a lot of money. I'm told that I'll be able to make $80,000 right away. And I have to pause actually, because while all of that information is indeed accurate, it's not right away. When I think about the pathway and the career journey for the skilled craft profession, I would say ultimately every single profession is starting at an entry level. And as they continue to increase their hours of classroom bookwork learning and on-the-job training, that is when they will see an increase in their wages. So what I'm going to do over the next 12 or so minutes is talk through with you some of the skills that are needed into being accepted into one of the apprenticeship training programs, and then talk about, really focus on two of our skilled trades, on the different areas that you can specialize in and how you can increase your wages based on the additional coursework and classes that a person will need to take in order to increase their wages. Next slide. And then I would say, if you have any questions or anything, please make sure you, put that information in the chat, and I'm happy to answer. One of the things right away that I get asked is, can you please tell me an easy way in which to get connected with the industry and with the professionals? I know this is very hard to see. Brian will provide to you this document digitally so that you can have it on your or within your documents, but you will be able to know right away who's the point person that you can contact. If you want to get connected to Boilermakers, you talk to Jason. If you want to get connected to plumbers or pipe fitters, it gives you all of the point person, their address, their location. This is specifically showing, though, the apprenticeship training programs that are within the St. Louis, and I would say mid from Columbia over to the east of Missouri. There are other training programs that actually are in the Boot Heel as well as on the Kansas City side. Most of the apprenticeship programs are definitely interconnected and they share the resources. This just means if I live in these particular counties, then I need to go to this particular apprenticeship training program. But they're definitely connected to their international union and then the locals, which you would be able to find on all of their websites, which that is included as well in this document. Probably one of the most important pieces as we talk about the construction career pathing and how to get accepted or enrolled. And Brian, if you can click to the next slide, is the last column that you see on the right, which is the letter of intent. The letter of intent and the union hiring hall seems to be probably one of the most confusing, and I totally get it and agree, one of the most confusing and helpful pieces of information. So when we are, and if you can go to the next slide, Brian. So when we are talking about a letter of intent to hire, that means that there is a company within the skilled craft profession in which someone would basically go in and apply to be an employee of, let's say, West Contracting. West Contracting would then be interested in hiring Diana as a carpenter, or let's take, for example, a construction craft laborer. And what that means is that I would be hired on by West Contracting, and I would go through the process of what West Contracting requires for me as an employee to be employed by their company. After the 90-day probation, and that's where most of the contractors who are letter of intent would require, after a 90-day probation, they then would receive a letter from that contractor that would then be submitted to the apprenticeship program, in which Diana could then become a potential candidate or a student to be enrolled in that program. So that basically means that West Contracting is very interested in the work that Diana has been doing for them. Thus, therefore, I would like to support her to go into the industry. And so that previous slide clearly shows which skilled craft profession requires a letter of intent, and then which one basically is through the union hiring hall. So let's go through this particular skilled trade profession. So the craft laborer apprenticeship program is actually out in High Hill, Missouri. They will train and provide training program in 10 specialty areas as a laborer. As a laborer, between the laborers and the carpenters, that is probably the highest demand fields of professions within the skilled craft profession. So you will have more laborers and more carpenters on any given job site because they often are the first ones to go into and onto the job site to prepare and prep the groundwork, and often the last ones to finish up and do a lot of the finishing. So as a skilled craft laborer, you will be accepted and enrolled after you've received that letter of intent. And then you will begin your coursework, and classes occur 1 full week every 3 months. So again, the interesting thing, and probably the most confusing, unfortunately, again, is the fact that all 22 skilled trade professions have an enrollment and application process, which is different. Not a single one is the same and don't necessarily follow the same process and same requirements. And so there's a document that's included in the slide deck that will definitely be able to guide you through what are some of the requirements to apply to one of the 22 programs. But when a person goes into the laborer's apprenticeship program, all of the course and the construction skills that you see at the top of the grid there are all required by every single laborer. There are 176 hours of training hours, and those pre-courses, if you will, are courses that are fundamental foundational courses that every single laborer must take and must pass in order to be able to move into one of the 10 specialty areas. So for example, if I'm a laborer and I've completed the first 176 training hours, one of the things that will happen, because I'm going to then join at that point, I've received and I've accepted, and I'm still working with West Contracting, I've then been able to decide which particular labor training specialty do I want to go in. And then beyond that, then I'm going to take coursework that is specializing in those particular professions or in that particular track. So for example, if I want to go into and be a general laborer, which that is what I would do if I was working for West Contracting, I would take an additional course, 12 classes total, with an additional 112 hours of general laborer. So learning how to use power tools. There are different levels of power tools. There are different levels of ways in which to do the concrete and the pouring and the framing. All of those specialty skills might be peanut buttered out to some of the other specialty training, but very specific to where I'm able to be a general laborer on many of the general contractors' job sites. And then beyond that, there would be advanced skill sets. And then at the end of my 4-year, 3 to 4 year training program as a craft laborer, I would then journey out, as what we would say within the skilled craft profession. For me to become a full apprentice and then to journey out for a skilled craft laborer, I have to have over 4,000 hours of on-the-job training. So my work with West Contracting, basically each year I need to make sure that I am working about 1,500, 1,600 hours a year in order to be able to fulfill that 4,000 hours of on-the-job training that then gets documented and sent in through the Department of Labor and tracked, if you will, through through the apprenticeship training program. So this is the process for the letter of intent, and that is that I am now signed with a signatory. I'm employed with West Contracting. I have made it from an apprentice level status, which my wage as a laborer, by the time that I am finished as an apprentice, will be at the range of $30 to $35. When I journey out, my wages will be anywhere between the 35, 36 level, all the way up to $40+ an hour as a skilled craft laborer. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about then what it means to go into a skilled craft profession. And I'm going to focus on iron workers for this one. When we talk about your being brought in as an iron worker. So if I'm interested, so I'm a young person that enjoys welding. You heard Brian talk about welding. Let's say during high school, I received my certification from the American Welder Society to weld. And I now am interested in really becoming and moving into an iron worker's profession. And I want to work constructing very complex buildings. So I'm framing out now structural buildings and towers, such as hospitals. I may be working on bridges. I may be working on arenas and stadiums. I may be designing or reading blueprints and working closely with general contractors, basically helping build the steel structure, iron structure, for then the walls to be framed out around the large building structure. So I love to shape iron. I work with steel. I'm erecting. It's basically a profession where you are constantly making decisions and thinking very detailed and really working complex blueprints and working collectively with many other professions. The skilled craft laborer as well will be working with many other skilled craft professions, but as an iron worker, you're often working with a buddy or a partner because of the type of work and the high risk that you have within this particular profession. So with an iron worker, the application process is the total opposite. You will have to apply at the union hiring hall, and the iron workers profession in the hiring hall locally here in St. Louis is actually open Monday through Friday, and you must apply in person. So I've placed in this slide the actual process of what is required in order to be considered as a candidate to be an iron worker for their program. So I am going to apply in person Monday through Friday from 8 to 2. I have to bring along with me, I have to be 18 years of age, and I have to bring along a photo ID. Once that application is submitted, and let's say today I'm submitting my application, the applicant's application is going to be on file at that training school for the entire year until February 1 of the following year. So February of 2024 is when my application is going to be viewed as a potential candidate to be enrolled in the apprenticeship program. They will have generally anywhere between 200 to 300 applicants that are interested in becoming an iron worker and to be accepted into the actual apprenticeship program. Once my application has been accepted and I completed it and it's all filled out accurately, I then have to attend a pre-apprenticeship program that then requires for me to sit in on a 10-hour session, which actually goes through all of the steps and the requirements in what I'm going to have to do as a iron worker within the skilled trade. So as you can imagine, once you're in front and you have an orientation and then you go to the next level, unfortunately, a lot of the candidates actually begin to drop off because of the stringent requirements and necessary skills that are needed for enrollment into the program. So you'll have to be able to pass a drug screen. You'll have to have your own transportation. It helps if you have a welding certification. However, you will still have to be certified through the requirements of the Iron Workers Joint Apprenticeship Program. It helps that you have had experience, if you will, doing some sort of welding, because again, you are then interviewed by 5 labor and then 5 management folks before you are officially accepted into the program. When it is all said and done, which tends to be a 3 to 6 month process, you will then be accepted into the apprenticeship program. And from there, then you will be assigned by the union hiring hall with a company that will hire you, and then you will begin your course training. So when we talk about a union hiring hall and a letter of intent, you become the employee of the local and of the iron workers specific to your region. And so local 396 is the local here within St. Louis, and then local 10 is the local out of Kansas City that will then take care of the west side of the state. So to become and once you apprentice or you journey out, it will take approximately 4 years for you to go through the full apprenticeship program. And again, doing approximately 1,500 hours a year for on-the-job training. So this kind of explains the flow then in the process. And most of the union hiring hall has this type of a rigid application process outside of taking applications for 1 full year. Next slide. So one of the things that, you know, often, and what I've learned quickly when I started, is that we often forget about the construction trades when we're in the K-12 sector. And often when you're in a classroom, you'll see that, or in a guidance counselors, you'll see a lot of groups, if you will, that have the different universities and different tech programs that you can go into. And so when I started 3 years ago, I learned quickly of an organization called the St. Louis Construction Cooperative. They have designed and developed a booklet, which is the booklet that you see on the upper left-hand side of your screen, that has a QR code. And I see that the hyperlink that's here is not bold, but it is. I'm hoping, Brian, it will be bold when this gets sent to you. But it actually is a hyperlink that will take you to the Construction Cooperative site. That booklet you can download, and you actually are able to take a look at each of the requirements for each of the 22 skilled trade professions. Construction Forum is an active participant and involved in the St. Louis Construction Cooperative. We are currently redesigning their website. Their website is still live, but what we are doing is that we are taking all 22 of the skilled trade professions and we are outlining them so that it's going to be an easy click for you to be able to see a work description of what it entails to be a Boilermaker, and then a very simple process. What's required? What are the documents that are needed? What are the types of skills that are needed? What are the math requirements? What are some of the other must-haves in order to be accepted or enrolled into the apprenticeship program? So I would encourage you, and Brian just finished dropping in the chat box the link to the site, but the new website will be ready to go and will be live. Our hope is that it'll be ready to go by the end of April, but on the safe side, I would encourage you to start looking back in May, and you'll be able to see a very streamlined and a very supportive process that's going to be able to help you to see the 22 different skilled trades and how to access and get enrolled. Construction Forum is another great career resource. We put out twice a week a newsletter. You can opt in to receive this newsletter. But when we talk about different projects, different professions, different opportunities to expose your young people or scholarship opportunities or different career events or different jobs within the construction industry, you will find that within this newsletter. So every Wednesday and Friday, a newsletter will hit your email. It will tell you there are 25 to 28 articles each newsletter that will talk about the new development. It will talk about the new trends and the technology, how much technology has increased the production of construction, not only from the skilled trade side, but from the construction management, project management side. And so you're able to really take a look at what's happening not only by the state, but what is happening nationally as it relates to construction in general. Something that would be helpful right now for you as an educator or working with school age youth is our Yeah, I Built That website, which is the icon to the lower left-hand side of your screen. You will find nearly 100 different career profiles of professionals actually that are currently working in the industry. So you will find painters, you'll find laborers, you'll find general contractors, presidents, CEOs, you'll find estimators, you'll find different professions. And what we've done is that we've profiled a variety of different professionals in the industry to talk specifically about their career path. So for example, some of our professionals had no desire or interest in going into the industry. They started off as someone in the culinary or hospitality and realized that they enjoyed working with their hands, but really enjoyed more working outside. So they left from culinary hospitality and went into becoming a carpenter. And so you'll read that person's career profile. In addition to that, you can take a look at the career pathway. What can I do as a middle school student? What can I do as a high school student? What are some of the apprenticeship programs that I can roll into? Where are the tech? We have locally, we have North Tech and South Tech. What are the different apprenticeship programs that I can go into as a high school student and then go into when I'm what we would say the freshman, sophomore year level? But you'll be able to see the career pathing and different career paths that I could take if I wanted to go into the general contractor or the construction management side versus the skilled craft profession side. And so that's laid out for you also within the I Built That. We also have a resource within that website of a plethora of different videos and links to different videos that describe the different skilled trade professionals and what it is that they do. Part of the role of Construction Forum is to also expose what we would think of non-traditional folks or individuals that often weren't provided the opportunities of getting and learning more about the skilled trade, because we've made that decision. Society has made the decision, oh no, you can't go into construction because you're a woman, or the exposure in general to diverse candidates. And so we have become the backbone organization for Missouri Women in Trades, MOIT, and we support the National Association for Women in Construction, NAWIC. MOIT is definitely the skilled trade side. NAWIC is more of the operational project management side. So both of these women organizations work closely together. We are unique, quite frankly, for the state of Missouri, in that we have both a women in trades professional organization, and we have the women in construction, which is more of the operational project management, general contractor side. And both of these groups work closely. So we are putting together a week-long opportunity for women, young ladies, and for females that are interested. And in the week of March 5th through the 11th, which is the Women in Construction Week, we will be focusing and having a construction career expo specifically for women within the trades, where they can come in if they're interested to learn more about the apprenticeship programs, but also companies that are ready to hire. And so that's going to be on Wednesday, March 8th. Finally, these are program connections. These programs are programs that actually have after-school programming or additional programming that you can take part of. Some are national, some are region, St. Louis driven, but there's curriculum and services that are specific to whether it's elementary or middle school or for the high school sector. So these are a variety of different resources. Again, the hyperlink or the email is not popping up on this slide, but you'll certainly be able to see it when you receive these slides. So with that, I am going to say thank you. And if there are any questions, or we can have discussion, but certainly happy to assist you and answer any questions as we move forward.
Great. Thanks, Diana. Appreciate it. And very good deep dive on a very complex topic, which is the construction trades. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share and turn it over to our next speakers, which we have Kibret, who is the Senior Community and Partnerships Outreach Manager for Girls Who Code, and Tammy, who's the CEO and co-founder of We Code KC. So Kibret, Tammy, thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Brian. I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. Let's see that tab. Can everyone see my screen okay? Fantastic. Thank you all for having me. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about our Girls Who Code programs. I think that everything that's been shared so far has definitely resonated with our mission and what we're trying to accomplish at the national level. So it's been really fantastic to hear what's going on specifically across the state. I want to highlight the link that I have up on the screen, that bit.ly link. If you want to receive a copy of the slides I'm going to share, happy to share that with you after. Just sign up at that link and I'm happy to share that and all materials or things that come up based on the information I share. So with that, I'll just reintroduce myself briefly. My name is Kibret, Senior Community Partnerships Manager at Girls Who Code, which means I get the pleasure of working with school districts, educators, libraries, any and all, community leaders who want to bring coding programming to their students. I think we've heard a lot about this in terms of the high demand tech sector, but I just wanted to highlight one national statistic that really sticks out to us at Girls Who Code and drives a lot of the work that we're doing. Today, only 1 in 4 computer scientists are women, and that's a considerable drop in 1995, 37% of computer scientists were women. And if we look at the state of computer scientists of color, only 5% are women of color within this 25%. So there's definitely a lot of demand and a huge gap in terms of women being able to fill these roles. And that's what we're primarily concerned with at Girls Who Code. So I want to highlight one program today that I think directly addresses the question of how do we inspire students to dive into tech industries? How do we inspire students to think about this field as a potential career path? And so Girls Who Code hosts 2 free virtual programs for high school girls and non-binary students. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat to our flyer for this program. Like I said, free and virtual programs. So we really have a mind to accessibility for students. The summer immersion program is a daily program for 9th through 11th graders in which students work on coding projects while also getting a chance to participate in exclusive virtual events with our company partners. We're really lucky to partner with companies that are sponsoring the program, but also offering their time in terms of their employees, being involved in panel discussions and really trying to illustrate what the life of a female leader in tech looks like. So as part of this program, in addition to daily coding instruction, they also just get a chance to sit in and potentially network professionally with some of the female leaders in tech that they'll get access to through the program. That sneak peek, I think, is really important. I think we've heard this reiterated throughout today's session that students need to be able to see what that means, what the career opportunities are in order to pursue them or to even develop any interest that we can all then kind of nurture as community leaders and educators. And so that's certainly the intention of this program. A few things I want to highlight in terms of that accessibility. We know that a lot of times access to tech can be a problem for students just to be able to then participate in, cool opportunities like this. So for this program, we do actually offer $300 grants and tech supplies for students who need it. So it's free, so there's no cost for the students. And additionally, they can apply for a grant to help offset basically any costs that they are not necessarily incurring through the program, but that they might be losing out on in terms of like a summer job or something else that they might be doing over the summer while they choose to instead participate in a cool program like this. So we definitely want to make sure that we're reaching students across socioeconomic backgrounds, and especially students who don't otherwise get an opportunity to participate in programs like this or receive this kind of coding education exposure. So we're always looking for students who are coming from high schools where there isn't some sort of computer science programming or a place where they don't already have access to learning this kind of material. This program is a really wonderful entry point for folks who are beginners, and also a great place for students who have dabbled a bit, but are not necessarily professional coders just yet and are interested in learning a little bit more about the tech landscape. So this program, as I mentioned, is really specifically focused on girls and non-binary students because we want to make sure that those students understand that these career paths are available to them. I also want to highlight another version of this program. While the summer immersion program is live, virtual, daily classroom sessions where they get to have a lot of opportunity to connect with other students across the country who are also interested, there is also a version of the program available for students who, do have a summer job and they can't necessarily take 10 days to commit to this every day. There's a self-paced program. And so they're covering a lot of the same material. The program is also for students who are beginner and intermediate level coders, and there are 3 learning tracks available. So they can choose from web development, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, cybersecurity, and a brand new learning track that we are offering this year in data science and Python. And we know opportunities in areas like cybersecurity and data science are increasingly popular. So we want to make sure we're meeting students where there already is a natural interest and where there are a lot of job opportunities on the market. And again, the with both the programs, the goal is for students to learn what it's like to work in these fields, what skill sets they need to be able to work in the field. And it also helps students understand that this is a possibility for them and inspire them to pursue these interests, you know, after high school, after college, and into their professional life. Just one or two more slides here I want to share. In terms of why students should participate and how we can inspire them, I'm going to go ahead and put the application in the chat as well. It is a very brief application. We really are hoping to reach as many students as possible and make the program eligible for a lot of students. So whether they're a beginner, whether they've taken some sort of entry-level coding, whether they don't have any coding opportunities at their school, they definitely don't have to feel intimidated. They can certainly apply to this program knowing that there will be others who don't have any background in coding as well. And then the other things I like to highlight is that, you know, it's always easier to learn something new or try something new in a group with other students. Community is a big part of our work at Girls Who Code. And so this program is really fantastic opportunity for students who are nervous, who are not sure if they want to be a software engineer, but want to try it out for 2 weeks over one summer. It's really no risk for them in a way that I think helps students feel braver and take risks, especially when we're thinking of girls and non-binary students in this space who don't often have the opportunity to kind of try something out without, you know, any costs or risks associated with it. So sisterhood and community building is definitely a key highlight of this program as well. A lot of the students who participate, you know, stay in touch and go on to like continue to have Discord channels and talk about what they're doing after the program. I could talk about the program all day. I wish it had been around when I was in high school, but I would love to instead share some feedback from a student who participated in our program last summer. So let me just make sure that sound is on high and I'll go ahead and press play.
Hi, my name is Evelyn, and this summer I took part in Girls Who Code's Round 2 Summer Immersion Program sponsored by Synchrony Finance. And one key lesson that I learned was really just to break outside of my comfort zone. Before taking part in this camp, I would have never considered doing anything STEM related. I've always kind of been a humanities, business, law type of person, and it's kind of what I want to pursue in college. So STEM, let alone something as intricate and complicated like computer science, never even crossed my mind. But as I was researching more virtual opportunities this summer, the Girls Who Code program showed up, and I decided to take part in it. So here I am after completing the program a few weeks later, and I can definitely say it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. In addition, it kind of broke that stigmatization around coding for me, because I always thought that it was super duper complicated, and I think I was honestly just thinking more about the back end of it. But because the summer immersion program taught me more about the front end of coding, like designing through CSS, HTML, JavaScript, it appealed a lot more to me. And it also allowed me to combine more of my interests, whether it was through the activist toolkit, where I was able to make an informational site about gun control, or just portfolios about myself, like I would on, for example, a LinkedIn page. So yeah, this school year, I'm going to be taking part in my very first AP Computer Science course. And I can definitely say it was only because of programs like Girls Who Code, which gave me the confidence to go outside of my comfort zone and try new things. Hey, I might even major in computer science later on in college. But thank you, Girls Who Code, for giving me the confidence to do everything and try everything, no matter if I end up pursuing it in college or not.
Evelyn is like a rock star student. She had a really great time in the program, and it is really fantastic to hear her talk about some of the things that I don't think get stressed enough when we're talking about how we inspire students, which is like creating a safe space, creating an opportunity to learn and try something new without there necessarily being a grade attached to it, right? It's just an opportunity to try something and to use your summer for enrichment. And so I've linked, or I've put the link back up if you want to receive a copy of the slides, as well as some of the links to the application. Students can apply up until March 24th. So there's certainly still time for them to consider. And I'm happy to connect with folks who are interested in sharing this opportunity with students in your network, because like I said, I think it's just a fantastic first step into thinking about, high demand tech sector careers. Thank you. And I will put that link in the chat as well for folks who, I stopped sharing screen, can't see it. And yeah, happy to take questions, but I'm happy also considering time to move on to the next presenter, and we can wait until the end.
Thank you. Tammy, why don't you go ahead and we'll move over to you now.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, my name is Tammy Buckner. I am the CEO of Wilhold KC, which is a nonprofit organization in the Kansas City area. So it's great to see my Kaufman family here as well, but also more importantly, to see national organizations such as Girls Who Code that help basically open the doors for organizations such as Wilhold. As a Black woman in the software development realm, my goal was to make sure that girls that look like me and people that look like me don't go through what I had to go through. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anyone that I could talk to. I basically was a self-taught developer and didn't see people in the space that looked like me. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a change in my community. So I started in the community working with what we call a Raspberry Pi, which is a very small computer, very small device that looks like a credit card, just basically to show kids how easy it is to learn how to code. And I'll show this really, really quickly, and then I'll jump into my slides. So if you've never seen a Raspberry Pi, this is a Raspberry Pi, and this is one of the laptops that our kids created and developed during the summertime. They came to me and they said that they wanted to create video games. Well, I told them they not only had to put together the laptop that they wanted to put the games on, as well as the operating system, and then build their game. So it was really fun. And we're talking about manufacturing technology. That is definitely what we're teaching them, how to be the creators instead of the consumers, and making sure that they learn the skills that they need to go directly into the workforce. I'll see if I can jump into my slides really quick and talk about our out-of-school program that we're looking to launch. Let's see if I can do this right, because this technology thing is crazy. Let's see. And can you see my slides? Perfect. Okay, so basically cultivating the youth as our future workforce, tech workforce. Because it is so important that that we teach the kids skills directly into high school, we're basically building a pipeline for the tech space in the Kansas City area. A little bit about Wilhold KC. Collectively, we have over 30 years of IT experience. We have certified instructors and advisors, professional-led industry recognized instructors that are on site with our students, basically coming in as far as project-based experience, mentorship, career coaching. We also have evening classes, and that's rolling into our out-of-school programming. As we've heard throughout this symposium, we know that technology is the fastest growing industry, and we can go on and on about the pay scale and the highest paying roles that coming out of Missouri and Kansas, and why it's so important that we teach these skills directly out of high school. We know some of our kids either don't have the capacity, the dollars, or even the aptitude to go on to college. So we try to make sure that we have the skills for them to go directly into the workforce. The out of school time program that we're looking to launch this school year basically goes into web development leadership courses that provide mobile and game development, software engineering, and then of course we know how important data analytics and Python and Excel that we have decided to launch as well. In return, we make sure that our students are getting badging, digital badging that creates that confidence level. And it's just particularly the same as if you're in the true workforce, that you're getting certifications. We give that instant gratification that they get a chance to get badges and put those badges, whether it's on their social media, but also for our younger kiddos that they can actually have something, a pin or something that they can put on their shirts. When we get up into the high school grades, juniors and seniors, we connect them with some of our business partners. So as they're learning web development, game development, they have the opportunity to get connected with client-connected services so that they can actually get a stipend to do some of the work that they've been doing. So it's been amazing. We've been testing and piloting this program for the last year or so, and it's been working really well, which is why we feel that it is time to create that out of school and after school program. This also leads into internships with our business partners. After the first year of a full development course, we look to partner with local tech companies to allow our students that internship during the summertime so that they know exactly what it feels like to be in a tech culture. We talk about closing the gap with minorities, Black and Brown in the technology. One thing we also encourage our business partner is to create a retention initiative. So not only do we encourage the recruitment of minorities and Black technologists, but more importantly, that they make sure that they are inclusive in the culture. So those are things that we're working on at this time. And this is just something that a quote that I always think about, you know, never change things by fighting the existing reality, but to change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And we talk about the education industry. That is the only industry that seems to be able to function at a failure rate because it is failing our students right now. We're trying to make sure that we not only involve ourselves in the school districts because they cannot do this alone. It's going to take organizations such as Girls Who Code and We Code and some of these other community organizations to fill the gap where our kids are failing in the school space. We start at 7 years old, and you see these young kids here in our space right now. We start at 7 years old, and we do go up to 18 years old. But we also have some post-high school. So when kids are leaving high school, not only we're putting them, you know, either with our internship, but if they're going off to college, they do get a chance to come back and be a part of our alumni program that are mentoring our smaller kids. So we truly are building that gap. We may not see, obviously, these kids in the next 2 to 3 years in the workforce developing websites, but surely we'll create a passion for technology for them. So again, we're moving into our upper ages, young adults in high school, which is how we've come up with the Wilhold Learners Academy. This is presenting our out of school tech program in the 23-24 school year to focus on that workforce development and dual credits for our students. Our impact and growth over the last few years, we've been growing very consistently. This past year, we impacted over 620 students. That's just from Saturday programming as well as outreach. And then we're starting to see schools that are coming to us basically for STEM field days. So it's been great. Our goal is to replicate a tech makerspace in the urban core where our students don't get the opportunity to get exposed to technologies such as our other, white counterparts in Overland Park, Lenexa. Those students just have those opportunities, and we want to make sure the urban core students have the exact same, aptitude on the playing field in technology. So some of the impact stories, but I will jump to one here, see if this plays.
WeCode has been a really big part of my academic development thus far, and it's really helped me find out which field I want to go into in the future. I think WeCode was my first introduction to programming, and it was my first kind of deep introduction to STEM in general. And being paired with a mentor, especially seeing somebody that was an African American mentor in STEM, and them helping teach me Java and CSS has really just helped me like fully decide to jump into a STEM career and try to go as far as I can. Code has been.
See. So I'll stop there. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me, tammy.buckner@wecodekc.org. Again, we have Saturday programmings. This year, we are focusing on out of school as well as after school classes. And of course, we have not even reached out to many of the schools. And that's our goal for the 23-24 school year, so that our kids in the urban core can get exposed to technology such as this. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So Brian, I don't know if you have any wrap-up comments for us that you'd like to say, but I would definitely like to thank Brian and all of our presenters. This has been some great information, and it's really a wide variety of key workforce issues that have been raised, and thinking about helping our students be ready for their future. So we appreciate your perspectives.
Absolutely, Terry. And, you know, thank you to the Girls Who Code and We Code KC, because that really is the ignition and inspiration for that next generation of tech talent. And you saw earlier, manufacturing is one of those spaces, construction is one of those spaces. You don't think about technology, but it's 100% integrated.
All right. Well, thank you again for being with us today. And I will put the link into the chat box, both for a post-session evaluation and then the agenda, so that if you are wanting to join the lunch session, the lunch and learn that's taking place right now, you're welcome to jump over to that session. And then we also have another afternoon breakout session if you'd like to join us there. So thank you again for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.